What's going on, you bunch of heretics? Grab your paint pots, grab your recaf, and let's get some paint on that ever-growing pile of potential. So it's here, the Heretics is My Therapy Slapchop tutorials. Now today is something a little different, and as the title suggests, I'm going to give my personal take on what I think the best value dry brush set or dry brushes that you can buy at the moment. Slapchop, as many of you know, kind of is heavily reliant on that initial base, that base layer, and then those dry brushing layers that we use to create that sort of underpaint before we apply the contrast paint, and then of course the signature Heretics is My Therapy Xandri Dust dry brush at the very end. So yes, without further ado, I'm going to talk about the brushes that I've been using on this Slapchop journey, and Slapchop, or the technique that shall not be named, on this Slapchop journey, and kind of give what I think are best value for money, ones that have worked well and ones that have been okay. Yeah, that's really what today's video is all about. So hopefully you find it useful. So very quickly, if you are straight out of the box, fresh painting, never done anything like it in your life before, and you've come on the channel because you're looking at different brushes, if you were completely on a budget and you wanted a decent brush that will kind of just do pretty much everything, honestly, I would just say that the Citadel medium layer brush, if you're on a budget, will pretty much do everything you want to do. It will give you a good base layer and it'll give you a few edge highlights. You'll be able to wash with it. You can pretty much do everything with this one brush. If you want a very basic edge highlighted model, very basic, on a budget, the medium layer brush will give you everything you need in that. Okay, so I just want to go and say on that, this is as if you do a one brush does everything sort of thing. But we're going to move on to the actual sort of, I say dry brushing. I started off using the Citadel dry brushes. You know, in all fairness, if you're starting out, the Citadel dry brush is going to give you a good dry brush. Okay, the medium and their small dry brushes, both the normal one and the what's the STL, STC brushes. Again, as a starting out brush for dry brushing, specifically for the kind of, I'll give you this one here. We have our model, and we're just going up and down the brush, like a bit of an up and down type thing. Yeah, up and down, up and down, up and down. That's going to give you absolutely fine. Okay, so if you're kind of on a bit of a budget, and you just kind of want a very easy to use basic dry brush, where you're not using small circles and all this sort of stuff, it lends itself to a nice up and down feather dusting, as I say on it, dry brush. Works really, really well. A small dry brush from Citadel, again, very, very good, very, very capable. And like I say, if you're just getting into the hobby, they're a very good brush for getting into the hobby, I would say. They're not round like some of the brushes we're going to talk about in a second. They're actually quite cheap in comparison to some. I think they're, you know, 3 or 4 quid, and again they do last. Again, when I was first starting the whole Slapchop thing, I was just using, like say, a medium layer brush from Citadel and a small dry brush from Citadel. Again, you know, a couple of quid. They do a really good job, in all fairness, to give you the results you want. But realistically, as I've said here before, take a little model here, they're literally just for that up and down, getting in places. They're not going to be as good for the circular stuff that we've been developing, and they're definitely going to be more for the up and down, but they do get in some small spaces. So again, if you're starting out, again, you can't go wrong with a small dry brush from Citadel, in all fairness. So yeah, Citadel dry brushes for beginners and people that are just starting to find their way within Slapchop. they work, and they work really quite well. Okay, so moving up from there, we want to take our painting, our dry brushing skills to the next sort of level. And the Army Painter came recommended to me. So as the Army Painter brushes came recommended to me, so I bought their dry brush, their masterclass dry brush set. They're about 20 quid off Amazon. There or thereabouts, anywhere between 17 and 20 quid, depending if you're getting a sale. Yep, they're the masterclass dry brushes. So these are more of a rounded. They're a round dry brush, as you can see there. They're a round dry brush. So what we're able to do with this is create more of a, instead of going, we can still go up and down, cover a larger area of these, but we can also start to make a circular motion. If you get a chance, the guys from Artist Opal did a slap chop with Angron. And again, the circular motion just takes away that up and down lining on a model. So we start to now create the circle. So you've probably seen in a lot of my videos, I talk about doing small circles. It kind of takes away that up and down granularity on the model. So yes, small circles. What I do like about these, again, they're a very different brush, as you can see, in comparison to, say, the Citadel one. This is the medium moderate dry brush, and this is the medium dry brush. As you can see from the stem lengths and stalk lengths, very different in their thickness. So that was something I needed to get used to. That was something quite new. That was quite interesting. But again, they come in a set of 3. You get a large, a medium, and a small. And again, really good, fluffy. They take the paint really well, as you've probably seen in some of the Croup videos that we've used. They were using that. So you can go back and check out how that was applied on there. The only downside I would say is the small dry brush. The miniature dry brush, it's just a bit too stubby in its brush length. It's a bit too stubby. So I kind of find that when you were trying to dry brush stuff on, it was more like a stippling brush than it was a dry brush. Great for stippling, really great for stippling. But for actual dry brushing, those small to reach areas, I found that I was having to go back to my Citadel small dry brush. As you can see, it's a lot thinner, and I could get into those harder to reach places. So, you know, they were good, and I did enjoy that. I do enjoy these. And I thought, you know, for 17 quid for a set of 3, or 17, 18 quid, it's about £6 a brush. You know, you're almost on the same sort of par with GW prices. And so, you know, yeah, not bad at all. Like I say, the only downside that I found was that after a while, the small dry brush was just a bit too small, and I was having to go back to using a small dry brush from Citadel. So that was the only sort of frustrating part about the Army Painter brushes. Overall though, a very good brush set. And I do believe that the Army Painter does do a beginner painting set, which gives a small dry brush, a medium, and a small paintbrush, medium paintbrush, and a dry brush, I do believe. But we'll have to check out that on a separate video. But otherwise, no, the Army Painter Masterclass dry brush set, pretty good value for money. You get 3 brushes in there. You know, for those larger models, they'll be fine. For the small stuff, you are going to end up having to go back to a Citadel brush just to kind of get those deeper recess areas in. So the final brushes we're going to talk about now. I didn't actually hear about these guys until I went to UK Games Expo, and that's the guys at Chronicle RPG, who said, try out the Techon Tiger dry brushes, see what you think. Granted, yep, I was given these, and the guys said, do an absolute honest review. So here we are, honest review, value for money dry brush. Let's talk about them. The dry brushes, we'll get the box out because there's 12. In the Techon Tiger dry brushes, you get 12 brushes. And I think these retail for anywhere between £40 to £50 for the box, depending on where you get your supplier from. If you get it from the main dealer, I believe it's around about the £50 mark. Again, 50 quid, 12 dry brushes. Do the maths, you're looking at about £4 a brush. Okay, 12 in there, you get 5 round dry brushes, 3 flat dry brushes, 2 angled dry brushes, and 2 detail brushes, a 0 and a 7. So let's talk about the round dry brushes first of all. As you can see, I've got the main 3 that I use here, and then of course the 2 more here. A huge array of dry brushes here. At the moment, I've not really had anything that I need these ones for, the 2 big ones, so I've not really been using those too much. But when it comes to the likes of vehicles, or if you've got large amounts of terrain, the big circular brush head is going to be really interesting. Again, with these are again like the Army Painter ones. These are also quite thick around the sort of like the handle. The dry brushes are a lot I say just a fraction longer. So hopefully you can maybe see this, but I'll take these 2 small ones in size comparison. Hopefully you can kind of see that on there. It just gives it that little bit more range on the brush. And I found I've used the Roy R1 brush loads, and I've not had to go back to the Citadel one to get into tight places. Mainly also because, as you say, within that set, you're also getting flatheads. So you're getting flatheads and angles for that. So I've got 3 flatheads that I can use, small, a medium and a larger one. And to be honest with you, I've literally been using the F2, where I would be using the small Citadel dry brush. The F2 Biaco, you probably heard me use it in a few of the videos, has just been great for getting into those small recessed areas. The brushes hold the paint really, really nicely. The brushes are quite soft. So when you load at the paintbrush, you can take loads of it off to help slowly build those layers up that I often talk about so much. Again, you've got the option within that set of the circular dry brush, where you can apply like we do, have done before. You know, we've taken our brush and we're applying that circular dry brush to get loads done. Again, the small circles that I always talk about. These again, it's a really nice soft brush that really gets the paint on, and hopefully you've seen in some of the previous videos where I've been using them and talking about them there, and there'll be more videos to come with those on there. And then again, you get an angled one. Again, if you want to get some angle in, and you also get the 2 smaller. You get a detail brush and a bigger brush for larger washes. At the moment, with this set, I haven't actually found any negatives. I suppose the only thing I would say is the only recommendation I would say within this brush set is I would probably get rid of one of the angle brushes and maybe supply a comparative competitor brush for the Citadel medium layer brush. That's the only downside I would say about that set. If you're spending £50 on that set, you are getting like literally everything you need for dry brushing for both you know, large scale stuff, small scale stuff, higher details of dry brushing. Genuinely, I absolutely love the Chronicle RPG brushes. I do feel like they're a better brush quality wise. When I've used the small layer brush that's in there, its detail is really nice for applying contrast paints. Again, I know we're not talking about those, but again, we're talking about a bit more value for money box. Again, really nice and light, teeny tiny little brush, but has been quite a good all-rounder for a lot of stuff that I use. I would just like to see in that box a comparative brush for the Citadel medium. Like I said, that'd be very nice. Could you do everything with that brush? Yes, you could. If you're going to come to larger stuff, not so much, as in painting wise, but dry brushing wise, as this is a video based on dry brushes, this is quite easily the best value for money that you're getting. You're getting, in essence, 10 brushes, 10 dry brushing options for your models that you don't need to switch back and forth between other ones. And so far, I've really been hammering these brushes on lots of different models, lots of different test models, and so they've done quite well. They've held the paint nicely. They clean really well, which also helps. So sometimes you'll find after a while the dry brushes kind of stick a little bit at the bottom. These ones, they've been really good, and I've been kind of using them most days. So you have to apologise for some of the tutorials that haven't been coming out yet. But yes, so overall, yeah, the Chronicle RPG brushes are really, really good. Okay, final verdict. So the reality is, you know, for me, best value for money if you're just starting out into the hobby and you're just getting, you know, you are just getting on board. You're brand new to the hobby. You just want something very, very cheap and easy, and you want to just get yourself started off. You know, honestly, a small dry brush from Citadel, you're not going to go wrong if you're an absolute beginner. You know, a dry brush and a medium layer brush is going to do you just fine as you find your footsteps within this hobby. For those of us that are now starting to, you know, we've adapted our painting, we've been in the hobby a little bit longer, we want something better, I would go with the Chronicle RPG Techon Tiger dry brushes every day of the week. It comes in a great box. The amount that you get in there as well, you know, 12 brushes, you're getting a detail brush, an ink brush, 10 different ways to dry brush your models. You know, when you start to add it all up, if you were to buy those over separately from, say, like GW or Army Painter, you're probably spending the same amount, if not maybe more. The fact that you can do terrain, like large scale terrain with them, that's already in the box. Tanks, all sorts, which again, I'll be doing stuff in the future with. And then of course you've got that array, being able to switch to a flat, to a round. It's all in that one box, good to go. So for the experienced painters amongst you, or those who are starting to look to elevate your dry brushing and Slapchop, or your dry brushing game, the Chronicle RPG is really gonna, I think for me, it's helped, definitely made my model stand out a bit better. I would go with those. But the Army Painter ones are good. But if I had the choice, you know, it would be the Chronicle RPGs, the Techon Tiger dry brushes, 100%. Beginners, like I say, go with a Citadel dry brush small, go with a medium layer. You won't go wrong with starting out on your little journey, on your journey. And for those of us that have been in the game a bit longer, the Chronicle RPG, Techon Tiger, I can't recommend them enough. They're really, really good. That's really it for today's relatively waffling on video, if you will, from me. So I've not demonstrated too much from it, but obviously, as you've seen from a lot of tutorials, you can go back from the start and see the differences in all the different brushes, and we'll go and revisit some of the like Space Marine chapters and other models again as we progress through. But overall, guys, I hope you found this video useful. I will put a link in the description below to all the different sites where you can get your brushes, and you can make the decision for yourself. All right, but yeah, hopefully, guys, this has been somewhat useful. If it has, let me know. If it hasn't, let me know, and I'll try and improve in future. But yes, hopefully you found this video useful, and it kind of helps you on your journey in Slapchop and on, of course, dry brushing. Sorry, the technique that shall not be named, Slapchop. And of course, dry brushing for your future terrain models, etc. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.